Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, now that we're getting at least 3 by-elections this autumn, and with 2 of the dates set, I thought it'd be worth going over the main points to each one and explain why picking a tactical anti-Tory vote in Mid-Bedfordshire is complicated. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So we're going to have 3 by-elections coming up. Mid-Bedfordshire, which is Nadine Dorries' old seat, Tamworth, which was Chris Pincher's seat, and Rutherglen and Hamilton West, which was the former SNP's Margaret Ferrier's seat. But unlike the last trio of by-elections, these are not all going to be held on the same day. The Tamworth writ hasn't been moved yet at the time I'm recording this, so I don't know about that. But Rutherglen was moved by the SNP, because they were the party that held it last time, so they get to decide when it's going to be. They have decided October the 5th, and Mid-Bedfordshire was moved by the Conservatives for October the 19th. So those 2 at least are going to be 2 weeks apart. Now, in terms of which parties are favourite in each by-election, tricky. MRP polling forecasts are based on general election voting intentions, where swing voters, by and large, are voting for the government they prefer, or least dislike, however you want to put it. But in these by-elections, no votes can possibly change the government. So they're not really doing that. They can be voting to support the government they would prefer. They can be voting to protest against the government that they don't like. They can use the vote for a small policy area, as happened in Uxbridge and South Ruislip. For example, on paper, Rutherglen and Hamilton West, which is between Labour and the SNP, should be a Labour win. In fact, pollsters are saying, even in the context of the by-election, should be a Labour win. Might even be a comfortable win. But I'll tell you what I find interesting. The SNP leadership decided to hold the by-election on October the 5th. Now, this is not only in the middle of the conference season, but it is before both Labour and the SNP's conferences. In fact, it's right before Labour's conference. The by-election's on the 5th. That means the results will come out on the 6th. And Labour's conference begins on the 8th, 2 days later. So imagine Labour win that by-election. That would just be gifting Starmer an extra boost for the conference itself. Why would the SNP do that? But let's say the SNP win. That would cast a bit of a cloud over Labour's conference, wouldn't it? I don't want to overstate it, because it is just a by-election. Polling in general is very good news for Labour. But when so many people are thinking Labour will win the seat, for them not to is bound to come to as a blow. And because the by-election is also before the SNP conference, albeit over a week before, high-stakes gambit from Yusuf. It would be a very useful win for him ahead of a conference when some SNP members are still not sure about him, but losing it would surely be ammunition for his internal opponents. The SNP could have chosen to hold the by-election after the conference season, as the Tories have done with Mid-Bedfordshire. That was totally justifiable. Or they could have held it on the 12th of October. Now, that would be the day after the close of Labour's conference. That would be more awkward for Labour, wouldn't it? Having the senior leadership divide their time between a crucial conference, probably the last before the election, and an imminent by-election. That the by-election is on the 5th says to me that either Yusuf is confident or he's desperate. You know, perhaps he thinks that the benefits of a win outweigh the problems caused by losing the seat. Then there's Tamworth. As of recording this, as I say, I don't know when that by-election is going to be, but this is between Labour and the Conservatives. Think about Selby and Ainsty from before the summer recess. Classic same. Similar margin needed for Labour. Polling suggests that Labour are capable of that swing, but it probably be tight. In the end, Selby wasn't that tight. They won it by about 4,000 votes. But, you know, Tamworth, similar sort of thing, could well be tight. The Conservatives could well sneak it. It's like 50-50 on that one. Labour are going to have to throw the kitchen sink at it. They did in Selby. That's how they got that win in Selby. They threw absolutely everything at it. They would have to here as well. But until we know when it's taking place, we don't know how long Labour have here, or if they're having to split their attention between 2 seats on the same day. Then there's Mid-Bedfordshire, Nadine Dorries' seat, or her former seat. This is by far and away the most interesting, and someone's going to be in trouble. Right now, it looks like a dead heat 3-horse race. Some pollsters think the Lib Dems are best placed to challenge Labour. The Conservatives, some think Labour are the best place to challenge. No one thinks it's very clearly either the Lib Dems or Labour that should be challenging. That is the problem. And also, none of them seem to have any robust reasoning. It ultimately comes down to gut instinct because they're expected to pick one. I'm not sure they will be picking one anytime soon because this poses a problem. If it were an obvious two-horse race, then the third would put up a candidate. They always put up a candidate, but otherwise only campaign in such a way as to not disrupt the tactical vote. In fact, you can sometimes help it. So, for example, if, let's say, it is between the Conservatives and Labour, and the Lib Dems have no chance, but what they could do is persuade some Conservative voters to vote Lib Dem as a protest. Well, that helps the tactical vote as well. But it's not clear which one should be stepping aside. There's good reason for each to challenge for it because both the Lib Dems and Labour can credibly win it. The Lib Dems are always in with a shout in constituencies like this in by-elections. They are very good at attracting protest votes from moderate Conservatives, but Labour have been polling very well in areas like this over the last year or two as well. Also, there's the impact of the result to consider. So, as with the other by-elections, the result will not change the parliamentary dynamic. Sunak's realistic majority, I mean, his actual majority may go down a little bit, but it's not his realistic majority, the MPs that will vote for what he wants them to vote for, is not really going to go up or down to the point where he can suddenly pursue policies that he couldn't at the moment or has to drop policies that currently he's all right with. It's really about the perception. If the Conservatives win the seat, which they should, Sunak hails it as a great victory. He will have won 2 by-elections, even though they were both safe Tory seats in recent elections. People will inevitably decide to blame either Labour or the Lib Dems for not stepping aside. That'll be par for the course. If the Lib Dems win the seat, Sunak will be under more pressure. No matter the expectation management, and even with voters largely wanting the Tories gone now, this seat should be safe. If Sunak loses it, questions will be asked. This is because Conservative MPs in more vulnerable seats will get nervous. If Sunak cannot win safe seats, even in a by-election, how is he to win vulnerable seats in a general election when the population is very clearly ready for change? But Tory MPs also know that Lib Dems can only target so many seats in the general election. They are too small a party to roll up the blue wall. But if the seat is lost to Labour, that's different. Labour have got the numbers of staff and activists, as well as the funds, to target a lot of seats. If Labour take a Tory seat in the Tories' own backyard, how can it not remind them of how Labour suffered the same fate in 2019? Consider that various Tory MPs think that they need different things in order to win their seat. Some think they need the culture wars or the asylum issue sorting. Some think they need tax cuts. Some think they need evidence of actual levelling up investment. If Mid-Bedfordshire is lost to Labour, this will be the situation facing a lot of Tory MPs. The poll gap with Labour hasn't moved at all year, so Sunak has done nothing to close the gap. It's been 20 points throughout 2023. It was 20 points at the start of the year. It's 20 points now. Sunak will have lost the safe seat of Selby and Ainsty, very nearly lost Uxbridge and South Ruislip, and possibly Tamworth as well. But if he loses Mid-Bedfordshire and to Labour, and also consider this, because if Labour and the Lib Dems are both fighting tooth and nail for it, Labour will not only have beaten the Conservatives in a safe Conservative seat, but they will have done so with the Lib Dems trying to hive off as many votes as possible as well, because they want to win it. So Labour will have won a seat in the Tories' backyard in a 3-horse race. It would be a devastating loss. However, if you live in the constituency and you're wanting to know what the tactical vote is, I think it will be a case of waiting until the last minute. Wait until you need to cast your vote, whether it's a postal vote or on the day itself. Hopefully some daylight appears between Labour and the Lib Dems one way or the other. There's over a month before this by-election occurs, because at the moment it's impossible to tell. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.